Nothing to do with PoE 2 being a good or bad game. The studio planted its feet and said, hey, this is a business. We want the community to focus on us, and we're going to bury the little guy.
And that means that it is going to lose a huge chunk of the player base. Probably quite a few people won't even play Last Epoch then, because I just kind of played for 2 days and then dip, which will definitely hit them pretty hard for revenue. They are the smaller game, and while they do have a banger of a patch coming out, I do think it's pretty unfortunate timing.
It's all just, to be honest with y'all, it's all just bullshit. It's a video game. Yeah, it's fun to make content about, and it's fun to, you know, get all worked up about and shit, but it's just literally competing video games.
Nightbot, welcome to my channel.
Last epoch trembles on the verge. GGG's update cuts like knives, stealing the light like a thief in the night. Oh, GGG, you're ruthless. Yeah, you play it cold.
Pettiplint. Welcome to my channel.
Oh, Mr. Pitty, hello. Welcome. Welcome to dying. Welcome to dying. Close to insanity and dark abyss. This is interesting.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Crafting a compelling intro is notoriously hard to do, and even harder is creating a strong introduction to a villain.
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
But both of these were executed to perfection by Colonel Hans Landa's introduction in *Inglourious Basterds*, and while it stands as one of cinema's all-time greats, it's not the first time we've seen it.
Wait, yes.
Because this same scene appeared over 40 years before this in a film that happens to be Tarantino's all-time favorite.
Is The Good, Bad and the Ugly still your favorite movie by anybody else?
Oh yeah, no, The Good,
It
Bad,
really still is.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig.
If you haven't seen the film, it centers around a Confederate fortune buried during the chaos of the American Civil War, and the three men who attempt to betray and outmaneuver each other in the hunt for it.
Two can dig a lot quicker than one. Dig.
Blondie the Good.
Never seen so many men wasted so badly.
Angel Eyes the Bad.
Not that you're any tougher than Tuco, but you're smart enough to know that talking won't save you.
And Tuco the Ugly.
The neck at the end of the rope is mine. I run the risks.
And we immediately know this based simply off the unique introduction that each one gets. Tuco is introduced through chaos. As he jumps through a window after killing three men mid-meal, his title is a combination of round edges and angles, and the music that plays stands out with the voice mimicking the solitary coyote call from the beginning. Blondie is introduced as a man who pretends to be good and lawful until we see that he too is in it for his own benefit. He's introduced in the sunlight, with a round and smooth title, and his music is high and cheerful. And the introduction of Angel Eyes, much like the previously mentioned introduction of Hans Landa, sets him up to be a cold-blooded killer, sitting in the dark with angled text and deep menacing music. And it's this scene where its influence on *Inglourious Basterds* can truly be felt.
You know, at the end of the day, I think the one artist that I think is the most influential to me as in my work has got to be Sergio Leone.
Welcome to my channel.
Both scenes open on a farmhouse, and the domestic work and life of the people living there being interrupted by an outsider, indicated by music composed by Ennio Morricone, piercing the natural sound. Only for it to stop once they've reached their destination, because villains don't just walk onto screen, they arrive. These shots also established the space and geography of the scene, letting us know that these locations are isolated. They also establish who is approaching, but not why. Both scenes start out with no explanation, acting as cold opens to their respective characters. We can assume that they mean danger, but until they finally reveal it to us, we're left guessing just like the characters they're visiting. All we know is that from the moment they enter the space, their movements, both calculated and casual, make it clear who holds the power.
Oui. Alors, je préfère du lait. Très bien.
This is where the two scenes differ in their approach. While Tarantino shows off his strength at writing dialogue, having Landa's performative charm emotionally unravel La Petite before revealing his intent, Sergio Leone emphasizes the silence in the scene, heightening the diegetic sound to almost deafening amounts and letting Angel Eyes intimidate Stevens through quiet menace. There's no monologues, no theatrics, just presence and simple dialogue.
Nice family.
And yet, they both serve the same purpose.
Precisely.
To build tension.
Tell Baker that I told him all that I know already.
From the moment Landa is introduced to the moment he finally gets to the true intent of his visit takes just over 14 minutes.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
And from Angel Eyes riding up in the distance to establishing the nature of his presence takes nearly 4.5.
I'm only interested in what name Jackson's hiding under now.
This detail is what makes both scenes so masterful. Tarantino learned from Leone's films that you don't have to tell the audience a character is dangerous, you just have to show them, through natural and almost agonizingly slow build-up. This becomes even more noticeable if you examine the same scene with all the extra space removed.
You're from Baker.
Maybe Baker would like to know just what you and Jackson had to say. That's not what I'm being paid for. I'm only interested in what name Jackson's hiding under now.
Bill Carson. That's what he calls himself now.
Sergio loved long pictures. He loved long sequences and long pictures.
His narrative had a smoothness to it, but it needed length because that's the way he operated. You know, he never skimped on film. He says that, oh, I'm going to say film here and make the scene shorter. That never entered his head.
That length created by this space is crucial to the scene's impact. And during this length, we can feel the pacing of the scene through the shot selection, with each one starting in wide with both men in frame, only to tighten into close-ups as the tension in the scene grows.
I think it's a more vivid contrast between wide and close than any other major director habitually used. Big, tight. Big, tight. Those close-ups function a little bit like arias do in operas. Suddenly you're very focused on a leading player.
This focus traps us in the scene with the characters, who are now trapped in the frame until we reach the inevitable climax, which, compared to the build-up, is over in a matter of seconds. And this isn't the only time Tarantino employs this technique. In fact, it's not even the only time he uses it in the same film, with the guessing game acting as the build-up, the camera pacing the tension, and the drawn-out sequence leading up to a sudden stop. And while there's plenty of Leone's influence to be found across Tarantino's work, even within just the scope of the good, the bad, and the ugly, once you notice them, they're hard to miss. But back to the farmhouses, where the scenes both reach their dramatic end, and the music that was silenced at the beginning of the scene finally comes back in full force, acting as an exclamation point rather than a guide to the tension.
Il nous semble que nous en avons terminé.
Leone's unique approach to directing shaped modern storytelling forever. He doesn't rush the violence, he makes you feel every second leading up to it, and when it comes, it's over in an instant. His characters barely move, and sometimes barely speak, and yet the way he films every slight glance or measured breath makes the tension feel suffocating. We can imagine why an SS officer would be visiting a French household, just like we can imagine why a man in black would ride up to an isolated house. But by drawing out the scene, he keeps our imagination guessing.
I love rumors.
It's just one of the many techniques he's perfected, but it happens to be one of my personal favorite.
When I start off to find somebody, I find them. That's why they pay me.
I'm Luke.
Ancora?
I'm Luke.
Bravo. Bravo.
Thanks for watching.
Bingo! How fun!
Troops, it's time to make Peter angry. What? Oh, this? No, this isn't a first, dude.
What are you talking about? This is my high-level armor. Come on, quit being jealous. It's unbecoming. Monster Hunter Wilds is the latest furry indoctrination sandbox where you smack really big monsters for 100 hours and somehow don't get bored of it. It's David and Goliath if David drugged Goliath and brought him back to his special dungeon. It's my favorite franchise where you can turn an endangered animal into a fur coat. And it's the fork in the road that either leads to becoming a furry or Cabela's. But for me, it's just another fine addition to my collection of games where I
kill things because they're different from me.
In fact, this game is so much fun, I didn't have to use mods. I mean, but, you know, besides a couple of quality of life things, but they're just some small front-end tweaks. I promise you, you're not even gonna notice them. I mean, when our blacksmith looks like this,
I don't even need to use mods.
But what I do need is for this entire story to fuck off right now. I'll tell you what's really wild. The tutorial is 8 hours long and they call it the main story. They put in so many cutscenes and walk-alongs that I kept forgetting what the dodge button was between fights. I go from ODing on dopamine in the fights to going cold turkey in the cutscenes. These cutscenes are like dopamine detoxes. Get that annoying little shit out of my face. I get that the story is supposed to build up all these fights and give you more of a reason to want to hunt the monsters, but you misunderstand me, Capcom. I already have a reason. I want to turn that gangly bitch into a mink coat. I don't need to know who they are, where they come from, or why they're here. I need to know if killing them will help me make my greatsword even greater. The only motivation this is giving me is to skip the cutscenes until I see a big old monster show up. Like those monsters right there. God damn, Gemma, look at those big naturals. What is that, tungsten steel? Luckily, once the main story is done, they just let you smack the fucking monsters. But before we get into fucking monsters, let's talk about stalking monsters. Wilds is way more actiony and streamlined than the previous entries. In previous games, just to find these bastards, you would have to interview the chicken's family, past lovers, you'd have to find piles of shit and take a little nibble and go, he's within 100 meters of here. I know it. Tonight's the night, and it's gonna keep happening again and again and again. Oh shit, there he is. Only to have to repeat this all over again 10 minutes later because the bastard rolled away mid-fight. I thought I was getting an animal cruelty simulator, and instead I got a shitty serial killer getting his daily cardio simulator. PETA shouldn't be mad about this game. I think this is more the fat activist jurisdiction. Whereas in Wilds, you load in, hop on a bird, turn on autopilot, go take a dump, come back, and there's the frog staring you down deviously.
Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth.
Now when he runs, I'm tracking that bitch on Find My Fursuit. We're one game away from not even showing up to the battlefield anymore and just drone striking these bastards. I get it now, new Assassin's Creed fans. Letting the game play itself is way better than me playing it. I can only imagine how good it feels to avoid playing your dog shit game. But for now, we still gotta mince our meat. With that being said, the combat's fantastic, no matter what weapon you use. The flow is stupendous. The new aiming feature gives me a snowball's chance in hell at reaching these tall monsters' taints. And I don't even think a single franchise out there has as impactful hits as Monster Hunter does. When you're smacking them, the scales come off, tails come off, you're shaving them like one of those meat tornadoes at the kebab places. Except instead of questionable meat-like compounds, you're shaving off a little Gucci, a little Cucinelli, a little Prada, a little Tom Ford. I'm shaving off fish drip by the fistful. And I know I said any weapon is fun, but you should know by now not to listen to me. There's only one weapon that will allow you through the pearly gates, and that's the great sword. Some people will say there's no need to go all in because you can just bring a second weapon, and they're right. You do get a second weapon, another great sword. Shut up and go get Gemma to make you a Cosby sword to go with your regular sword. Gunlance users are out here struggling on monsters as simple as the flaming cocks. Can you imagine that? Great sword havers can't. The great sword's all about smacking the shit out of a monster as hard as you can, as slowly as you can, while taking the absolute most damage you can. Make no mistake about it, choosing the great sword is choosing to take a hurtin'. I'm out here popping mega potions like Percocets. Can't feel a fuck to give. I am him. It's very different from the Gunlance user strategy of the best offenses getting killed immediately and letting your friend beat the boss for you. Humble opinion here, but Gunlance users should be put up against a wall and shower with shampoo and body wash. Get that sweaty shit out of here. Did you know that 9 out of 10 Gunlance users are furries? That stat just came out. Go look it up. The great sword has hit, block, and parry. What more do you need? But with great power comes great responsibility. Parrying ain't easy. You have to start your parry 7 years beforehand and then hope it lines up with him being 3 feet away from you in the middle of an attack. Time is essential. When their back is turned on you, not yet. When they just started their attack, not yet. When your wife starts banging the neighbor, not yet. It's all about that perfect moment. When now! Wow! Sunk it! Listen, if you can't get the parry down, just go find a great sword user who did get it down that'll carry you until Capcom servers take a shit. Now, with all that being said, weapons are only half the battle. The other half is fucking up explosive barrel tosses or using the environment against the monsters. And the environment can be any number of things. You can pull a cliff down on a frog, you can lure him into a vine trap. Hell, sometimes a hawk will come down to double team that cock. Except you shouldn't double team him. I'll tell you what you should do. You should remove yourself from the situation and take a little inspiration from Mike Vick's playbook. That's right, start taking bets. Who's gonna win, the hawk or the cock? This is a God-given side hustle laid upon your feet. Are you an entrepreneur or not? If you see 2 dogs fucking and don't start charging matinees and running Facebook ads for it, then I guess you just don't want a Lamborghini. Do you? Bill. Profit, 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 then go use that money to craft more weapons. I just crafted a heavy bowgun. I don't like heavy bowguns. I would never even fucking touch a heavy bowgun. I just wanted to see the blacksmith again. That's business. As far as what armor you should use, just craft whichever fursuit matches your persona. Listen, pimps, I gotta admit something to you. This whole time I was in fact using mods. And not just the quality of life mods I told you about. I admit I used mods to make the heavies heavier. I know. You probably didn't even notice, but I had to confess. I had to confess before I showed you this last mod. I've gone too far, damn it. Too far!
One says, now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
very controversial one. But with the nature of the game, the idea of this map was pretty obvious. In this map, we're sent to deal with an active shooting at the Watt Community College. Moving toward the building, we can already hear gunfire from within. Upon entering, we can find a security officer who's been wounded. Bullet divots are painted across the architecture, and a blood trail can be seen on the hallway floor. Oh good. I may have had to fire, but he still has a chance to live. But we aren't done here. This game still has a ton to offer, including our next mission, which just keeps the wagon going with terrible things. The map Elephant is one that I never thought would really be released. Upon hearing rumblings of its development, I didn't believe it, because while this game has gone to some dark places, this map would be a very controversial one. But with the nature of the game, the idea of this map was pretty obvious. In this map, we're sent to deal with an active shooting at the Watt Community College. Moving toward the building, we can already hear gunfire from within. Upon entering, we can find a security officer who's been wounded. Bullet divots are painted across the architecture, and a blood trail can be seen on the hallway floor. Oh good. I may have had to fire, but he still has a chance to live. Throughout the level, if you don't act fast enough, you can hear gunshots in the distance and civilians can die. This is our first level where everything we've learned about tactics and safety go out the window. There isn't time to mirror under doors, think about strategy, or meander along carefully. Time is of the essence here, and if we don't act fast enough, there are real consequences. Sometimes you'll hear a student yell for help, but upon moving that way, you can discover that it in fact was not a civilian, but instead one of the shooters. On the evidence for this level, we can find horrific writing on the outside of an evidence box implying that whoever was logging the evidence had a son who died in the shooting. Inside the classroom, we can find one of the most horrific scenes in the game. The entire classroom is covered in gunshots. Blood is everywhere, along with the bodies of students. On the desk, we can find a bomb, which will need to be defused. The map also has overt references to the 2003 movie by the same name, Elephant, in which two boys shoot up a high school. The references to this movie are clear. Watt Community College is an obvious reference to the high school in the movie, which is named Watt High School. The shooters in the map also wear similar attire to the ones in the movie. The naming here is very interesting and has a deep history behind it. The movie was named Elephant as an homage to the 1989 film by the same name. The director of the 2003 movie believed that the 1989 film was named that way as a reference to the parable of the blind man and the elephant, which goes as follows. A group of blind men heard that a strange animal, called an elephant, had been brought to town, but none of them were aware of its shape and form. Out of curiosity, they said, "We must inspect and know it by touch, of which we are capable." So they sought it out, and when they found it, they groped about it. The first person whose hand landed on the trunk said, "This being is like a thick snake." For another one whose hand reached its ear, it seemed like a kind of fan. As for another person whose hand was upon its leg said, "The elephant is a pillar, like a tree trunk." The blind man who placed his hand upon its side said the elephant is a wall. Another who felt its tail described it as a rope. The last felt its tusk, stating the elephant is that which is hard, smooth, and like a spear. The parable is meant to demonstrate how different people can believe what they perceive to be absolutely true, despite their limited experience, and how they can immediately disregard others' experience simply because it's different. The director of the 2003 film used this interpretation to highlight the different viewpoints of everyone involved with the shooting, including not only the victims, but the shooters as well, showing in specific how the same exact hands that are able to create such an atrocity are also able to produce masterpieces. Unfortunately for Van Sant, the director of the 2003 film, the name of the 1989 film was not in reference to this parable. Instead, it's a reference to the saying elephant in the room, which was to display the denials of underlying social problems in Northern Ireland at the time. I think Ready or Not's naming of this level has much more value than a simple reference. I believe both interpretations of the name work well in the context of Ready or Not. The parable interpretation is much more significant. It's the entire thesis of this video, and I'll cover it at the end, but for now, let's focus on the phrase interpretation. This map as a whole is the elephant in the room, from a meta perspective and an in-game one. Given the theming of Ready or Not, a school shooting level is an obvious idea. Of course, it's an unbelievably bold move, and a very controversial one, and I believe the name Elephant in part is in reference to this. This map is Void's elephant in the room, but there's also the lore implication. The common mental state in Los Sueños, as well as our own world, is on a constant decline. In the game, 36% of the residents in Los Sueños are diagnosed with a form of mental health problem, which isn't a far cry from the real 23% in our own world. Mental illness is a rising problem in our society, so from the bottom of my heart, if you need help, seek it out. On that somber note, it's time for some fun. Our amazing friends at FISA and Border TAC have joined us in a mission to stop exfiltration of bad guys across the border through an underground tunnel. I guess those meth heads really did know what they were doing. If we look up, we can see the Border TAC drone, which is cool. We deal with some goobers on the surface, and then... Holy... This joint is insane. It's like the tunnels from Twisted Nerve, but if they had 10 times the meth heads digging.
What are you doing? Digging.
We search around for a while, get a little lost, and then end up in... Wait. Hold on. Oh no! Oh, wrong game. We find a massive thrown-together barge, and this is sweet. This is so cool. The Los Locos gang uses an underground river system to travel across the border into Los Sueños. It's genius. In the evidence for this level, we can find a cell phone conversation that goes as follows.
LSPD tracking distribution. Go to Metro Max Tunnel with what you have now. Bring cash for the trip. 150K from the state.
Okay, driving.
Go straight to water. Don't look if you hear children crying. No children in tunnel.
What? It's also stated that the LSPD looked for a child and did not find one. So that's not terrifying or anything. Sure makes you wonder what those creepy eyes in the distance are. Weird. Remember the Left Behind, the group of terroristic veterans? Well, they're back, and once again in a hotel. They have Senator Fremont's family held hostage because they hate that guy. On a computer in one of the rooms, we can find this conversation.
Johnny, where are you? I haven't seen you in a week. You aren't responding to me.
In Mexico.
What the hell do you mean, in Mexico?
Stuff went down not long ago. Won't be back.
But what about us? But what about us?
Stuff happens.
I'm not sure what it is, but for some reason both levels with the Left Behind are not only in hotels, but they also include riveting love stories. Albeit this one is kind of the opposite of a love story. But enough of that. It's time for something terrifying. And I know I say it a lot, the most terrifying blah blah blah. But this is something different. This is genuine horror. The atmosphere in this level shines, and in combination with Ready or Not's stellar soundtrack, a terrifying, beautiful level is born. The harsh, cold architecture only serves to build a horrifying atmosphere. Then we find what was meant to be the kill room. A camera shines on a series of chairs with ropes where the senator's family were meant to be executed. We could find a phone conversation between a man and a woman, discussing when they'll see each other again. The conversation was cut short, however, by the attack. But how did this happen? After the first incident where the senator was almost assassinated, how did the Left Behind get to the family again? Well, as it turns out, the Left Behind were placed right in front of them. The very same Secret Service team that was meant to be sympathetic to the Left Behind, causing this catastrophe. And that concept is terrifying. Imagine the very people sent to protect you being the same people that want to hurt you. It's bone-chilling. A terrorist group based in Yemen, calling themselves The Hand, has begun a massacre at a neon nightclub in response to American airstrikes to shelters in northern Yemen. Upon entering the club, we... Oh, come on. I gotta do it. What a shame. I'm not him, I guess. Outside the nightclub, we can already see the carnage these guys left. As it turns out, the nightclub stretched their maximum capacity so that more people could party here tonight, which only means more bodies. Also, apparently the Hand live-streamed the massacre, meaning the entire public is already made aware of what happened here tonight, meaning plenty of people are calling their relatives who they know might be at the club. Remember in the first level where I mentioned that Ready or Not loves to use his cell phone calls as a plot element? Well, here you go. Across the map, you can find all sorts of buzzing phones. It's a haunting sight, but even more haunting is what you hear upon shutting the music off. Remember back in Ends of the Earth where I mentioned that the suspects were receiving parts to manufacture illegal firearms from a car dealership? Well, this is it. Outside, we find a couple trucks with mysterious spider symbols painted on the side. I sure wonder if we'll see any more of that later. Heading inside the dealership, we can find a room with paper shreds spilling out of it.
Spoliation, that's what it's called, and it's a felony.
After peacefully entering, we can find piles of shredded paper. Among them, dozens of intact papers detailing descriptions of women, including things like contract period and country of origin, along with computers deleting files labeled girls' IDs.
Spoliation.
Which is insane, especially considering we came here looking for illegal firearms, which is something we can find an abundance of in a separate building, along with heaps of money and drugs. In the second floor of the building, we can find an undercover officer who's been executed. Next to him, a whiteboard detailing millions in profit from selling drugs, weapons, and what they refer to as bitches, along with the details on transportation of such things, including the detail to drug bitches before transport. Transport where? From where? Clearly there is a lot more going on here. Clearly, this operation doesn't all come back to this weird car dealership. Other than that, there's not a lot to talk about here. But we finally get back to the fun stuff once again. Enjoy it while it lasts. Our next mission, Carriers of the Vine, is one of my favorite thematically. Imagine, for a moment, a conglomerate amalgamation of Ready or Not, Far Cry 5, and, optionally, a Benelli M4. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Carriers of the Vine. Carried from Crisis LLC is a place for women who have been given no other option but to step away from their former lives in an effort to save themselves from misery. That sure sounds healthy, and not at all like a creepy cult compound filled with disturbing artwork and architecture.
Well, I'll be damned.
Apparently there's weird rumors of this place, and I can see why. One of the station's officers was shot and killed on the path to the farm. Moving through the house, we can find my favorite thing, conspiratorial ramblings. There's some drawings of men, one of them being Dennis Noble, who apparently got a woman drunk at a bar before beating her and assaulting her in his truck, which is insane. He also has a fetish for heels, apparently, so that's cool. We also have a drawing of Big Dick Rick. Apparently he frequents the Neon nightclub. Probably not anymore, though. The paper then details all of his wrongdoings before saying to make sure not to let him bleed out too quickly after taking what he values most.
I wonder what that could be.
We can also find a picture of a man named Aaron Shepard, who has allegedly murdered someone and also frequents Caesar's car dealership. He must be a big car guy, right? Behind the main building area is a creepy pathway through the forest, leading to one final building. Inside, we can find a weird wooden statue, which is kinda on par for this map, along with a room full of shackles and more creepy imagery, which is where things become clear, if they weren't already. I mean, it's pretty obvious. This group, which consists of women who've been sexually assaulted, go to this farm to live away from the world so that they can't be assaulted anymore. In this farm, they make plans to kidnap sexual predators and bring them here to be tortured. So, like, they aren't so bad, especially when you read about all the pedophiles they kill. Their biggest blunder was when they were caught kidnapping a man, which led the police to their farm. The leader of this cult, Elaine Raskin, is a former USIA agent, similar. In the evidence locker, we can find a paper consisting of a conversation between Raskin and someone named Agent Brody. They are discussing something called the Next up in our adventure through hell is the mission Relapse. It takes place at the Coastal Grove Medical Center where the Hand, the terrorist group from Yemen, have taken over a hospital in an attempt to rescue their leader who was placed under supervision there after the club incident. Moving into the hospital, we can see that it's had better days. This place has been wrecked and it only gets worse from here. In one of the rooms, we can find a retirement party for one of the doctors. However, unfortunately, he can be found dead nearby. One of the scariest parts of this level is going to apprehend a civilian who is a member of the hospital staff, only to find out they aren't. There's also 2 bombs on this map, and if you don't act fast enough, they'll explode and kill everyone.
Experience said Smush.
This entire map
Welcome
is a
to my
bloodbath,
channel.
Similar to Neon Nightclub.
Best
These terrorists
VP
did not
rupees in
discriminate.
stream
I think the level
book
building
remove
for
the
this map
space
was made to be a lot
image.
darker than most other levels. There are blood and bullet casings everywhere among a trashed environment, and to make it even worse, the hospital is overcrowded and understaffed. Los Sueños is in a miserable state, and I think this map perfectly highlights that. The saddest part is, that's it for this mission. There's nothing else to say. There's no crazy conspiracy or interesting theory here. It was an act of vengeful violence, killing people who had nothing to do with the problem. Throughout the entirety of Ready or Not, some of the darkest moments in the game existed out of implication. Without overtly showing anything, the game has told some horrific stories. But now, in our final mission of the main campaign, it's time to tackle Port Hoken in the mission Hide and Seek. Our raid on Caesar's car dealership led us here, Port Hoken, suspected of harboring an illegal arms trade. SWAT, working with FISA and the ATF, is sent in with the goal of locating and stopping a massive trade going on tonight. Moving through the map, we can find multiple shipping containers marked with a familiar logo, the Spider, the same one we saw on trucks back at Caesar's car dealership, and presumably connected to Brixley Talent Time through the naming, the Spider. Unexpectedly, we not only find a container with guns, but also a container housing drugs. Clearly, there's more going on here than we expected. Then, we find another Spider-marked container, and inside is the most horrific thing I've ever seen in a game. Naked, starving, delirious women fill the container, with nothing to eat except dog food. But we weren't expecting this, and we need to get these women to safety, so we'll radio in for help.
Talk. We have a container full of women. We need Thames down here right now.
Copy that. Entry team. EFTs and trailers are...
This is FISA. Stand down and shut that door, entry team. We're sending a unit to secure the container and its contents.
What? We're not leaving them like this.
Close the doors. Unless you want to interfere with a federal investigation, I suggest you shut the door and lock it behind you. Do your job and proceed with your mission. Understood?
Understood. Put the other guy back on. We'll talk later.
No, we won't be. FISA out.
For the first time, we hear Judge get angry. We hear him argue, but with nothing else to do, we continue with our mission. Moving through the warehouse, we deal with some enemies, and then make our way into the back, where we find something that somehow manages to make what we just saw even worse. One final spider container is found. Inside, we find random mannequins strewn about, red light and barbed wire spilling across the walls. A room full of more mannequins can be found. This is an auction room. A wall full of photos labeled "Today's Menu" sits in the back, and looking up, we finally find it. This level is our first time really seeing the evil. Throughout the game, we've seen the remnants of evil. The barrels in the Vole house implied something twisted, however, we never really saw it. Opening that shipping container is the first time we first-hand witnessed what was going on, and it happened in a way we didn't expect. We expected to find something scary in the Vole house. We knew why we were going in there, but here, we were looking for guns. This was completely out of left field, and that makes it even more scary, and for the first time, we weren't able to save them. We had to lock the door behind us. The entire game has been spent saving people. We are held to a high standard. If they're civilians, they better make it out, but here, we have to do something that goes against everything we've been taught leading up to this. Generally, horror games can be easily dismissed. A spooky, fictional monster is just that, fictional. But when playing Ready or Not, the monsters are real. People like Amos Vole really are out there. Organizations like the Spider really exist. The game is painfully realistic, even down to the gameplay. When you die, there's no reset button. There isn't even a game over screen. You get the same screen you always would, a scoreboard. While you obviously need to live past a level, the game embraces an interesting idea here. Your life in the game doesn't matter. You're not the center of the universe.
You're not him.
You die, and the situation still exists. Your actions are still highlighted before you because you don't get off easy just for dying. The environment is made to exist before you arrive and keeps existing after. This game is brutal and makes you understand that. As you start to witness the officers around you quit, you watch as their mental state deteriorates from what they're witnessing. Every time you die, and every time another officer dies, the people who lived are left scarred. The officer who died is dead. The civilian you shot is dead. It doesn't matter what you do. Your score is affected by your actions. The contents of the shipping container was the most jarring thing I've ever witnessed in a game, and I was expecting it too. I had the misfortune of the contents of this container being spoiled for me. Although I never really saw what was in it, I knew what was in it, and somehow opening those doors still managed to shock me. Knowing about it is one thing, but seeing it is a whole other. It's the entire reason this game is important. It gives us the chance to really see the horrors of our world. Of course, it's all fictional, but the themes and concepts are very real, with many of the levels being based on real events. The parable of the blind man and the elephants serves to highlight how different perspectives matter, which is a large theme in the entirety of Ready or Not. This game shows us a perspective to our world that we rarely see. Where normally, we learn of tragic events through the news, Ready or Not places us directly in the event. It offers us the perspective of the first responders. It's easy to say, oh, that person shouldn't have done that, but that kind of perspective is only one small interpretation of the much larger elephant. You can't simply touch the tusk of an elephant and label the entire animal as a solid stone. Ready or Not gives us a different perspective. Not only do we get to feel the tusk of the beast, but the body as well. I've heard people criticize the game, saying it's disrespectful to victims of these sorts of crimes, and to that, I couldn't disagree more. Ready or Not sheds light on these atrocities, and offers the chance to better sympathize with the victims. There's more to this game, a lot more, but currently we're led to dead ends. Only time will tell where this story brings us. Things like the USIA connections with brainwashing, things like the Mariposa Lily Order. All things that I will discuss in a future video. For now though, hold tight and know that there is much more to this game than covered in this video. Throughout the game, it's easy to feel like you're really making a difference, like your actions in SWAT are single-handedly fixing Los Sueños. After finishing Valley of the Dolls on S rank, you'll receive a unique tattoo. Maybe you finally brought justice to true evil within the city, once and for all, but let's be honest. You haven't changed a thing.
A hunger for... What do you get when you combine incompetence, laziness, a hunger for TikTok fame, and a family straight out of a horror comedy? The answer is Tophia Chu, a walking train wreck who somehow manages to smell worse than she looks. From stalking online celebrities to constantly butting heads with trolls, her existence is a real-life tragic comedy. And the best part? Her 24/7 streams allow anyone to tune in and see the chaos unfold. Our story today starts with Tophia Slidell, better known as Tophia Chu, who was born on June 6, 1994, to Marie Lucero and Donald Slidell, allegedly. There's a bit of a dispute over that we'll get into later. Very little is known about her early life, although if one were to judge it by pictures alone, it would have appeared normal. Unfortunately, sometimes reality isn't so peachy. Tophia had no verifiable social media presence until around 2011, when she made a Facebook account. She was just like any other teenager, and for the next few years, there wasn't much to report on. But things would get slightly more interesting in 2015 when she started posting to Instagram. Much of her early posts were dedicated to her art skills, which honestly weren't the worst, if only she had stuck with it. Starting in late 2016, Tophia started posting videos on Musical.ly. The first few videos were just showing off her art skills, but this then changed to producing the same garbage that everyone else was making on that app. To her credit, it seemed to be working, as around the end of 2017, she accrued enough of a following to get over 1,000 live viewers on her stream. But as she tried to grow her audience, she already started to develop the first of her many concerning habits, this one being publicly obsessing over online celebrities. Her first ever target was a Musical.ly influencer and singer named Justin Burke. She'd regularly post memes of him to her Instagram trying to get his attention, but it eventually worked, as he started paying attention to her and even did a duet. Finding some minor success, she began trying to diversify over on YouTube. She really flexed her artistic muscles here, creating a Michael Jackson edit where she took the footage from Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal music video and played a different song over it. She then made an anime music video of Robin Williams where she stitched together some clips from his movies. This experiment wasn't particularly well received by anyone, and as a result, she decided to give up YouTube entirely, instead going all in on her Musical.ly career. But just because she was trying to grow as an influencer didn't mean she couldn't engage in her favorite hobby, stalking Justin Burke. She regularly watched his live streams and reposted screenshots from them, talking about how much she loved him and hoped to meet him. This persisted for the next few years, even as Musical.ly went under and merged with TikTok. As far as I know, she never got to meet Justin, but hey, at least she got to stream with him. Following the Musical.ly and TikTok merger, Tofia was producing stuff on TikTok under the name TofiaChew. This was mostly the same content she had posted on Musical.ly, with the addition of things like singing. And boy, does she have some pipes.
I've been up all night, I've been constipated. Went to the bathroom, now I'm so frustrated. Does anybody know where the pizzas I ate it?
She continued to grow throughout the latter half of 2018, reaching 10,000 followers by the end of the year. But growing as an influencer takes a lot of time, and you might be wondering how Tofia, who was 24 at this point, had the time to make TikToks and religiously watch all of Justin Burke's content. In mid-2018, Tofia gave us an answer. She uploaded a YouTube video titled My Experience with My First Job, wherein she describes this job experience in detail. A year prior, she apparently had worked at Dunkin' Donuts, although in the video itself, she refrained from saying that it was Dunkin' Donuts for fear of being banned from going there. According to her, she passed the initial tests on how to make coffee with 92%, and she learned how to do everything from making sandwiches, how to sterilize, and how to run things correctly. All of the basic stuff you learn to do at a fast food place. She worked there for 6 months, which she describes as absolute hell on earth. She claimed that the machines they were using never worked properly and were constantly being patchworked together instead of replaced. She also claimed there was preferential treatment for some of the staff, as some employees were allowed to eat on the job, while Tofia was not. After 6 months, she was fired, and the reasons she cited were nothing short of prophetic.
So the day I got fired, she had said I had hygiene issues.
She glosses over it here pretty quickly, but the commenters sure didn't miss it. She went into a whole spiel about her day, how the management mistreated her, etc., etc., but this slip of the tongue was the only real takeaway that people had. The video became her most viewed at the time, albeit not for the reasons she had hoped for. Many people had one specific takeaway, that she simply refused to do any real work. And as a result, she hoped beyond hope to become an influencer instead, since that's obviously much easier than doing a regular 9-to-5. Amusingly, she tried to argue with people that she totally wasn't fired for her hygiene, but frankly it was just kind of humiliating for her to even try. To her credit, there was a time when she put some effort into making content. Not good content, but still. She was posting videos on YouTube, including vlogs and even a weird conspiracy theory about people losing followers after the TikTok and Musical.ly merger. On TikTok, she was also growing more popular, and in late 2020, she released one of her most popular videos up until that point. The first installment of the Mob Boss's Daughter series. She continued to release videos, and as time went on, it only became more and more uninspired. Eventually, she figured out that she could make things much easier for herself with this one simple trick: live streaming. In modern day, Tofia has become infamous for her daily live streams. While she was continuing to produce TikToks, it was clear that streaming was her main source of income. Of course, the issue with streaming is that you have much less control over what people see, meaning you record everything that happens to you, no matter what. And as it turns out, there was a lot about Tofia that probably would have been better as a secret. One of the first things people noticed was the things she was saying. She's very unashamed of her use of different derogatory language towards black people, Mexicans, so obviously this was somewhat controversial, but that's not even close to the craziest part.
Call me a like so. Excuse me, not slow, because we're talking about two people.
Initially, she did her live streams in her bedroom, where people got a first-hand look at her terrible living conditions. The entire apartment, but especially her bedroom, was crawling with cockroaches, which she showed complete disregard for. She doesn't even flinch when a cockroach climbs up her water cup. Speaking of her cup, she never washes it, despite the fact that it's absolutely rancid, and she can't even stand to take a whiff of it. The same trend follows for her personal hygiene. She apparently smells so bad that her father had to spray her with Febreze. And ironically, despite being very messy, she doesn't quite have the stomach to keep up with this lifestyle, as she's been caught vomiting on stream multiple times. Although she likes to come across as a tough cookie, lobbing slurs like it's a 1950s period drama, she really has the mental fortitude of a wet noodle. She's become legendary for her crash outs, where she breaks down crying for some pretty ridiculous things. Case in point, she started bawling her eyes out because her DoorDash order was misplaced. And because she tends to overshare, she also let her viewers listen to her pee. I'll spare you from listening to that, but I'm sure you can imagine how it went. With all of these things combined, Tophia Chu started to get a lot of negative attention, which supercharged her growth. Today, she stands at a very respectable 380,000 followers. While it may have been partly fueled by people who genuinely like her, 90% of the people tuning in now are either trolls who find her conduct funny, or people who genuinely despise her. But Tophia doesn't seem to totally comprehend this. In fact, she's somewhat of an expert at giving the trolls more ammunition. She wasn't quite aware of just how popular she was getting, and she continued to use her Instagram to get baited by thirst traps. In 2020, she had finally moved on from Justin Burke, but that gave way to a whole new obsession: Asian men. This started off being relatively harmless, just making a few posts on Instagram, but this obsession soon bled into her content creation. She began making duet videos with prominent Asian influencers all over TikTok. In particular, she developed a crush on an influencer named Wesley Boba. Wesley used to be a TikToker whose bread and butter was posting thirst traps. Tophia likes to comment on his videos, and because he had the tendency to reply to everyone, he happened to reply to her comments as well. Had he known how far she'd take things, I'm sure he would have chosen differently. This was all the prompting she needed to start doing regular duets. This ranged from the cringe roleplay stuff to literally giving the guy a video resume with reasons why he should date her. The ones she gives are her inability to cook, her fatness, which he could use as a pillow, and the fact that she's 5'3.5", which according to her makes her petite.
Final option for being a really, really good girlfriend is I'm 5'3.5", which makes me fun size. And fun size people move over Snickers, move over fun size chocolate, are the best people to have in your life.
This behavior of constantly pulling at his pant legs went on for a while, and the videos just kept piling up. Eventually, Wesley got so creeped out by everything that he left the internet. At least that's what many believe, but it's not totally known if that's really the case. What is the case is that as soon as he left, it really disappointed Tophia, who took to her live stream to complain about it. You see, she genuinely believed that Wesley was interested in her, and years later, she recalled how protective he supposedly was over her. She even implied he may have left the internet because she was getting bullied, and he just loved her so much that he couldn't stand to see it. You might wonder how she could become so obsessed with this random man who quite clearly couldn't give less of a shit about her. The answer is actually quite sad. Tophia has never had a boyfriend at the age of 30 years old, although that's not exactly how she puts it. During a live stream, she said that she lost her virginity to a pap smear, a procedure done to test for cancer, and she doesn't recall the experience fondly.
When they went to do it, it was so painful that I jumped off of the table. I was laying on my back, but I was jumping and I almost fell off the thing. And then she sent me to the women's clinic, which was right down here.
But just because she's not currently getting any doesn't mean she doesn't want to. And her extremely powerful libido is something that the TikTok community would become well aware of. On April 4th, 2022, she was live streaming and trying to show something to her viewers on her phone. She was in portrait mode, but just as she flashed the camera, the screen turned horizontal, revealing the other tabs she had open. The most prominent among these was a tab titled Asian Teen Sex, which linked to the hub, specifically the gay hub. This caused a lot of backlash, with people taking it as further proof of her fetishizing Asian men, and even more horrifyingly, teenagers. Tophia clearly took the backlash personally, as she started pretending no such thing was ever in her search history, leading to people trying to prove it was, and constantly posting videos about it. Ironically, this issue probably would have blown over if she hadn't said anything, but by this point, the Streisand effect was in full swing.
This video is brought to you by my new old shirt. We've already sold it once. We're selling it again. It's got a cool, gothic, death metal font. For all of you alternative individuals out there, people who like alternative fashion, alternative stuff. People who like alternative things. The back, once again, says leave me alone on it. It's got this cool cyber goth design that you guys are gonna love. You're gonna freaking love it. So be sure to pick it up today at turkeytom.shop. It is very good merch. It's high quality. This is not cheap stuff. And everyone who's already bought gave a raving review. So buy my new shirt today. Or don't. But if you don't, relax.
As all of these minor, relatively meaningless controversies piled up, Tofia's family also started to enter the limelight. Although not as famous as Tofia, they're eccentric figures in their own right, and none more so than the family patriarch, Donald Slidell, known online as Papa Chew. Besides Tofia, who makes money via live streams and has a creator fund, Donald was the only other person with a stable income in the whole household. He's the CEO of Slidell Financial Services, which, as far as I can tell, is a legitimate financial service company. Despite the lofty title, his primary source of income is SSI.
I paid the rent, so you can say my brother paid the rent all you want, but I helped pay the rent. When my brother didn't have a job, who do you think was paying the rent? I did help with what I got paid on TikTok. You know what I've done? These people knew that my father was getting disability and was paying the rent. So how was my brother paying the rent? And he's not getting his disability anymore because he went to jail. They cut him off. So who do you think had to take up the rent when my father couldn't pay it? You. Of the entire family, Donald is perhaps the kookiest. As Tofia was getting popular, he basically saw it as an opportunity to piggyback off her newfound fame. He made his own Twitter, and he started live streaming on TikTok. One of his favorite pastimes was to flirt with the people in chat by blowing kisses and sticking his tongue out at them, to the great displeasure of his wife, who constantly told him to cut it out. But rest assured, this wouldn't be a problem for much longer. During one of his live streams, he made a revelation that would change the world of science forever.
I'm 58 years old, and I am teething. Right now, I am teething like a baby.
Spoiler alert, they haven't grown back. But his unscientific beliefs aren't even the silliest his opinions can get. He's a man of political aspiration, as he's come up with the perfect way to heal the world of its woes, which basically boils down to how every single major power needs to give him money now.
Every nation in the world must pay me $999, $999, $999, $999, $999, $999, $999, $999, $999, $999 zillion dollars every year. Every year. The first installment, December 2019.
If you think this is impossible, you simply haven't given the idea as much thought as Papa Chew. With his genius intellect, he explained exactly how the world government should deliver this money.
Okay, look. All debt is set at zero. Every country is printing $999 zillion and waiting for my instruction. We're going to utilize the stock market. We're going to utilize commodities.
He continues listing off every other tradable community, and his solution is basically just give me everything ever and I'll figure it out. As funny as Papa Chew can be sometimes, not all of the stuff he says is wholesome PG fun. In one clip, he went over his opinion on the age of consent.
Anyone 16 and older can visit, obtain, and smoke. Prostitution is to be legalized. I want the streets full of prostitutes.
Comments like this led people to believe that there was something a bit darker hiding beneath these silly faces and schizo ramblings. As he started making himself known on social media, one of his favorite pastimes became pictures of his own junk, specifically sharing it with other people. When he wasn't doing that, he was spamming out dozens of thirst traps and telling people to sign up for his financial project, or telling people to give him money. He also regularly spoke about his hatred of white people and the government, but it got weirder. You might notice the green crosses in some of his backgrounds. Over time, Papa Chew put these up all over his house, with every visible wall outside of Tofia's bedroom having at least one. These obviously have religious significance, except it's kind of the opposite of what you're thinking. Among other things, he used his Twitter account to share his love of the occult. In this one video, he burned a piece of paper until it resembled the head of Satan, at which point he started recording.
That's him. And Satan has taken over. Golgotha. It's in the Bible. Live by the sword. die by the sword.
With videos like this, people started digging much deeper into the lore behind Papa Chew. They found that he had a substantial criminal history going back to 2001. Up to that point, he had been arrested 13 times, with charges ranging from physical assault to soliciting prostitutes, which he did while being already married to Mama Chew, by the way. On the 25th of November 2022, he was handed his 14th arrest, which was apparently caught on video, although you can't see very much. He was then let out sometime in December, which is when he started posting on Twitter. While all of this was happening, Tofia's other family members came into the spotlight, including her mother, Marie, or Mama Chew. Unlike her husband, she seems relatively normal, albeit rather senile. She mostly became known for randomly walking in on Tofia's streams, only to get screamed at by her own daughter.
You guys have no business. Hang up the phone! Hang up the phone! Give me the phone!
No, he answered that.
Well, just let him answer!
I told you to.
Stop it!
Despite the terrible way her daughter treats her, Marie clearly still loves her daughter, as she'll go all over social media to defend Tofia whenever she can. She even got into a habit of going live with her daughter, where she seems blissfully unaware of just how bad Tofia's reputation has gotten. During one of these live streams, Mama Chew accidentally soiled herself, and instead of being a good daughter and turning the stream off to go help her out, Tofia just let it play out for content. After the most recent arrest of Papa Chew in 2022, things quickly started getting complicated for the entire Tofia family. Around this time, she'd started getting into drama with Nova Online, who I recently covered on my channel. But while that was happening, the family also had some much greater concerns. Because of her trolls, Tofia's house was getting regularly raided. In December, sometime after Papa Chew was released from custody, the apartment was raided by a SWAT team, which used tear gas to gas them out before they were temporarily moved to a homeless shelter. This was allegedly after the landlords had received complaints about Papa Chew vandalizing the place with fires and put crosses up everywhere. Sadly, this wasn't the end of their terrible news. For background, because Papa Chew was the only real moneymaker in the family, he was responsible for paying rent. However, around December of 2022, it came out he had stopped paying for the last 3 months, and they owed the landlord $3,000. They didn't have the funds to pay it all at once, so they sought to get a 30-day extension and even applied for COVID relief that would theoretically pay their full debt off.
Your father was in charge of paying the rent then? Everything was coming from his account? Okay, and so you guys were under the suspicion. You're saying that the landlord waited 3 months to tell you guys that you guys were behind on your rent?
Yes.
But before it even got approved, Tofia had the bright idea to spend $400 going to Comic-Con with her brother. Since there was no chance that she could scrounge up the money legitimately, she thought it would be a good idea to make a GoFundMe to help the move, where she asked for $3,000. She ended up raising $485 out of that $3,000, and there was a lot of backlash. Because of that backlash, she was invited on an interview by a creator named Aunt Karen, which made her look even worse. Among a few other topics, they explicitly talked about the eviction situation and her asking for money, and Tofia justified her reckless spending on Comic-Con by saying that the landlord was refusing the money until they could put together the full $300, whereas they only had $1,000.
The 1,000 before that, I was offering to make a payment, but they wouldn't allow it. They said, no, we have to have the full 3,000 up front.
So, because they wouldn't take her money anyway, she just decided to waste it, figured she was all but guaranteed to get that government relief money. She did not. This whole interview was an exercise in futility. When the topic of her not safe for work search history was brought up, she repeated the claim that the evidence of her doing so had been photoshopped. This was debunked towards the end when one of the Reddit investigators came into the call to prove once and for all that it was real.
Yeah, this is the porn site. There was also another link. I'm waiting for someone to send me that screenshot, but Tofia accidentally showed her activity. Like, you know, if you go down your home screen and you like swipe down. So on her social it showed all her recent activities, like her, like she was on Among Us for like 15 minutes and stuff like that. On the top corner, there was a little X video showed her being on it for 23 minutes.
Throughout the stream, Tofia kept trying to make people feel sorry for her. In the end, Karen concluded that Tofia probably deserved everything that was coming to her, saying no one in their right mind should be sending her money for anything. This really upset Tofia, who muted herself and started crying, shutting down any further attempts at conversation. Since she had officially fumbled her redemption arc, the obvious next course of action was to get into even more drama. In early February, she she got into a spat with a creator named Leslie Clark, and the two beefed it out on TikTok Live. Tofia was also joined by Chris Dahl, an OnlyFans model who ran defense for her. This entire argument is frankly ridiculous. The two sides accuse each other of things they're both just as guilty of as the other. Tofia, for example, flames Leslie for saying that black people smell, even though one of the things that she's most hated for is being racist against black people. Leslie flames Tofia for her search history when she herself is guilty of sending a 15-year-old nude photos of herself. Leslie then brings in this guy called Isaac, who's basically a community orbiter from this side of the internet, being heavily involved in the creation of the Chew Wiki, which was a fandom page that aimed to document Tofia Chew and all of her shenanigans. There's really very little to say about this whole thing though. It all really boils down to Tofia trying to make herself look better by throwing other content creators under the bus while actively avoiding talking about her own misdeeds. When someone highlights something bad she did, she goes, "But what about this thing?" and thinks that that just solves the issue. So went another failed attempt to rehabilitate her image, and with the family's habitual inability to save, their landlord had no option. On February 25th, they kicked them out of the apartment, and the family then moved to a motel where they stayed for over a year. Despite the massive blow to her ego, Tofia still wasn't quite done humiliating herself. She refused to get an actual job, banking on her dream of becoming a true viral success. In another attempt to save face, she went on another TikTok Live with Karen, which went even worse than the last one, as multiple guests ganged up on her to talk smack about her. In fairness, Karen was actually pretty impartial. She even defended Tofia when some people tried to imply she was some kind of creep, while the others in the call tried to prove it was somehow actual CP.
Asian teen corn. Let's talk about that real quick. Is very misleading because teen corn, as you guys know, if anybody has watched corn, you know that there's a category that says 18 and it says teen. So is that really anything lower that you guys can prove, or are we just saying that because it says teen corn? Because it can be 18, it can be 19.
It wasn't, by the way, or at least there's no proof that it was. The fact these people spent so long talking about it is kind of ridiculous though, with the point still standing that none of this would have even happened if Tofia wasn't pretending that it was a Photoshop job. The livestream didn't add much lore, but it did include one interesting admission. In her endless quest to sit on her ass and do nothing, Tofia had tried to get a virtual babysitting job. I honestly didn't even know this was a real thing, and I don't even know if it's legal, but one of the guests tries to question why she is a virtual babysitter, basically trying to use it to prove that she's some kind of groomer, but the entire thing just comes across as comical after a while and really doesn't lead to any great conclusions. At this point, she just stopped trying to convince people to like her. In fact, she sort of just stopped trying in general. She started using a green screen effect, which is why she has the exact same background regardless of whether she's in her room or filming outside. This meant that she wouldn't have to worry about how messy her house actually was. For a while, there really wasn't much to report. She was threatened with a lawsuit by Nova Online as they were still in the middle of their shit-flinging contest, but really, things were going okay for her, at least if you ignore the fact that she was flat out broke. But it would all get ruined on June 11th, when her TikTok was suddenly banned. In a panic, Tofia went on a warpath on Instagram. She threatened to expose every single one of her trolls and then threatened them with lawsuits. She then further swore revenge on her mom's livestream, promising she would come back. And she was right, as her account was reinstated within the next few days. But as far as I know, that was really the end of this whole saga. So much for revenge. I'm sure at this point, you can't help but think there's something wrong with this woman. Around this time, she told people on her live stream that she had a developmental disability, which made it hard for her to learn things. But it's not exactly known if or what she has. Things remained relatively quiet for a couple of months until she made a bit of an oopsie. Since she doesn't understand the concept of being a public figure, she started following an account on Instagram that posted gay hentai. She also followed a page that was nothing but pictures of Asian men and boys, and casually liked dozens of photos. I'm pretty sure all of these people are adults in fairness, but I'm not entirely sure. While some people on Reddit were outraged, this incident went under the radar as other developments took precedent. Because in August, the Chew Crew Discord trademarked the name Tofia. Panicked, she came to TikTok, saying that she would likely abandon her main channel unless there was enough of a backing behind her to sue the trolls and get her name back. It's not clear whether anyone actually donated, but the lawsuit was never mentioned again, and a month later, she bought a new iPhone 13. Keep in mind, at this point, she was stuck in a motel, and her family could not pay rent. And I guess in the end, she didn't need need the lawyers that bad, as she's still active on her main channel to this day. The rest of the family, meanwhile, was up to their own shenanigans, with Papa Chew getting arrested on the 28th of April, then getting arrested again in September for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and then again in November for aggravated robbery. But interestingly, he wasn't the only one facing some legal trouble. Enter Brother Chew, real name Donald Jr. At first glance, you may think that he's the most normal out of the Slidell family, but he's nonetheless just as much of a lunatic as everyone else. Unlike his parents and sibling, he doesn't have much social media presence, and he's only really been known for occasionally appearing on Tofia's streams, often half naked. One of his more notable appearances was when he threatened to trace trolls' IP addresses and give them a violent end.
So if you want to continue talking your shit in front of your mouth, everybody, go ahead. Don't think I'm gonna find out where you live. Don't think I'm not gonna find out.
Still, despite having some anger issues, clearly, he mostly kept himself out of trouble, but all of that was about to change. First, a little background. So, sometime in 2022, Brother Chew and his girlfriend, Angie, broke up, and it wasn't a very clean separation. The two parties became incredibly hostile, although most of that was kept under wraps. Then, in January 2023, Angie started live streaming on TikTok, where she exposed several personal DMs showing just how dysfunctional things had gotten. In one of the DMs, he all but admitted to being verbally abusive, though he didn't respond when she asked him about when he had supposedly shoved her to the ground. In another, they talked about how he'd apparently faked a suicide attempt, although he denied that. As Angie was streaming, Brother Chew was in the chat repeatedly trying to dox her current address, and even Mama Chew showed up to talk about what was happening. At some point after this, Angie came in while live streaming as she tried to get back some of the stuff she'd left at the house, including her dog. This was likely sometime before the family had been evicted. Brother Chew responded by saying he had thrown all of her stuff in the trash already, but she didn't really get much out of it, not even being able to get her dog. In the same stream, she also alleged that he had a pocket knife that he was going to use on his neighbor.
He has a knife right now, guys. He has a pocket knife he was going to use on his neighbor.
For a while after this, there was radio silence on the whole thing. The two of them were filing restraining orders against each other, although they kept getting violated. Mutually, I might add. You can't stop love. But then, sometime in November, Angie came to TikTok again, accusing Brother Chew of being abusive. She went full scorched earth against the entire Slidell family, accusing Tofia of, among other things, supposedly, pleasing herself in front of her own mother, and all kinds of other weird, degenerate shit. Now, obviously, Tofia took this quite personally, as did Mama Chew. When the news about her brother initially dropped, she denied it wholesale. Well, kind of. They admitted that there was violence going on, but that it was mutual.
He may have hit Angie like he said he did, but he said she hit him too.
I don't want to have it. Don't discuss that.
She hit him too, she said.
Don't discuss anything that has to do with that.
This launched into a massive back and forth that, frankly, is kind of difficult to follow. The Slidell family was accused of refusing to return Angie's car, and Tofia herself went as far as to dox Angie for all the trouble she had supposedly caused them. Now, the car thing may or may not be true, as Brother Chew had the car since at least September, and Angie hadn't reported it stolen or anything like that. More notably, Brother Chew had no issue putting it up for sale, which would seem unwise if the vehicle was truly stolen. Then again, no one in this family has shown themselves to be particularly forward-thinking, so who knows. In retaliation, Angie started live streaming regularly to spread the message of how terrible this family really is. She threatened to sue the Slidells over the car situation, and she ragged on Tofia for her awful hygiene, recalling a story when Angie's dad came to pick up Tofia and Marie while they were all walking somewhere. As soon as Tofia left the car, her dad was hit by a foul smell. This supposed smell is a big part of the lore. For example, in another video, Angie gave a very vivid image of Tofia's body odor.
Tofia smells like BO and piss.
The flinging would go on, leading to Brother Chew leaking Angie's sex tape, which he saw as proof of cheating. While I couldn't find it myself, the claim was that she appeared to be getting assaulted, but Tofia didn't see it that way. When she saw it, she claimed that Angie was clearly enjoying herself, meaning that all this video was proof of cheating. During the same stream, she accused Angie of being a very different person from how she had presented herself, claiming that she had threatened to harm herself whenever Brother Chew tried to leave her, which supposedly led to Brother Chu getting a restraining order. It seems Angie was in the chat at the same time, saying things that were upsetting Tofia, who then told Angie she needs to get off the internet. This battle didn't end there, as Tofia followed it up by leaking some very private medical history, including the fact that Angie had supposedly had a miscarriage prior to meeting Brother Chu. At a point, the drama started to devolve into meaningless drivel. It dragged on for months on end, with the two parties being pretty horrible to each other. Eventually, Brother Chu broke the silence, where he explained the situation from his perspective.
She's always wondering who I'm talking to, whether I have a girlfriend or not, and she's always trying to see what's on my phone. Still acting like controlling, like we're in a freaking relationship, trying to always wonder what the hell I'm doing and who the hell I'm talking to.
He'd known her for around 7 years, and he claims she's always been kind of weird. According to him, she was dating a guy in his 40s despite being only 27 at the time, and he also claims that he was abusive towards her, but clarifies that the abuse was mutual, meaning they both were just acting horrific towards each other. Sometime after this, things devolved even further. For some reason, Angie decided to move to the same motel they were staying at, all but guaranteeing that there would be more drama. Lo and behold, they had another spat. While Angie was arguing with a roommate, Brother Chu pulled a gun on them. He then must have left, attempting to talk to Angie through the door.
I'm trying to talk to you.
Okay, you're over here yelling about a gun, dude. I'm not doing it.
So fine, don't talk to me. Don't fucking talk to me. I'm just going to take the gun.
Just because you're not getting your pay.
You don't want to fucking talk. You just keep everything one you fucking telling me. This is not my problem, my situation I should have been in.
Okay, you don't have to come at me like that.
Based on their conversation, he had been waving a gun around, quite possibly at Angie's current boyfriend. But honestly, with how much context we're missing here, it's a little difficult to follow. Tofia would defend her brother by saying it was just a BB gun and that he didn't mean to harm anyone. It didn't exactly look good either way, even with that added detail. 2 days later, Brother Chu and Angie ran into each other again, and he threatened to call the cops on her. Of course, since he's a brain-dead idiot, he also doxed the motel address and his room number by saying it out loud, which backfired immediately. Tofia was on a live stream blaming Angie for the address leak. But luckily, Angie left the motel on the same day Tofia and company took the opportunity to barge into the now unoccupied room, where they uncovered that she's quite messy in her own right. The motel room floor and bed were covered in cat, which Tofia deliberately pointed out every time she spotted it. She also doxed Angie's room number in the process, although at this point, that didn't really matter. Sometime later in April, Angie fired up a stream close to the motel, and she claimed that her ex-boyfriend had stolen her dog and sold it for $200. That's about all there is to this stream. The rest is just babbling. Now in May, for the first time since the whole drama started, Brother Chu finally came back with some of his own receipts, sharing a conversation between them where Angie admitted to being charged with domestic violence. He also exposes her for assaulting other people, including some random guy who ended up beating her up, which Brother Chu also showed. Notably, he claims that she was fired from her teaching job because of being inappropriate with children, but he doesn't provide any proof of that, so the jury's out on whether or not that's even close to reality. This specific drama mostly ends here, and honestly, it's hard to root for either party. If you peruse through Tofia's early Facebook days, she comes across as a bit of an animal lover, posting pictures of her dogs that had passed away. They eventually got a pet chihuahua named Hershey, and when Tofia's streaming career kicked off, it was very clear to everyone in the audience that they couldn't take care of her. From the get-go, TikTok was swamped with Tofia and pretty much the whole family mistreating Hershey, who, being untrained and in constant distress, was openly very aggressive towards the family members, but to Tofia especially. She constantly barked and growled in her presence, to which Tofia never really had much to say. Back when they still rented an apartment, she couldn't even be bothered to take her dog outside to piss, instead just laying out a bunch of pee pads, which were just layered over each other in the apartment. When fans called her out on it, she never really responded. Not that she really cared if the dog peed on the carpet, as the worst she'd do is get annoyed and not even clean it up. But worst of all, she was also physically abusive towards the animal. Of course, this is Tofia, and any attempts from her fans to make her fix her behavior fell on deaf ears. After the family was evicted, Hershey moved in with them, and most of the dog abuse clips hovering around the internet came from their stay at the motel. But Tofia really believed that she was a good pet owner, so she decided to foster another animal, this time a cat. This is despite the fact that she had no means of taking care of it, as she had to feed the cat dog food, which is very unhealthy for cats. At one point, the poor creature was so starved of nutrients that it jumped up on Tofia's table to steal her bacon.
No, you're not gonna
get her now.
She stole my bacon. gonna attack you if you take it away. That's what she does. she's holding the baby.
When the cat wasn't busy starving to death, it was constantly agitated, attacking Tofia whenever she tried to get close. In her infinite wisdom, Tofia blamed the aggression on the fact that the cat had recently been neutered. Keep in mind, Tofia had zero issues throwing the cat around without a care in the world. People began reporting her to Albuquerque Animal Welfare for her very obvious animal abuse, asking how the agency could permit Tofia to foster an animal in the first place. The Animal Welfare social media account had something very interesting to say. Apparently, Tofia had never actually been entered into the foster program, meaning her claim of fostering the cat was false. It's not clear whether Tofia found out about this or not, but just a few days later, she reported that the cat had been rehomed. And that left Hershey, who somehow held out in that house of horrors until now. Sometime in February of 2024, Tofia came online with some devastating news. Hershey was missing. She claimed a couple was walking by their motel room with a big black dog. The motel room door was cracked open. Suddenly, the couple lost control of the animal, which sprinted towards the door and busted through. Hershey then apparently tore herself free from her leash and ran away. In tears, Tofia announced that she was gone. But there are some issues with this story. For one, she left the door cracked open despite claiming in the same video that wolves were in the area. This is a shady motel establishment, where leaving your door unlocked is an open invitation to get robbed or trafficked. She also chose not to put up flyers indicating that the dog was missing and asking for anyone who had seen the dog to let her know, and did nothing to try and find Hershey for one entire week. The stream where she broke the news happened over a week after Hershey went missing, and up until then, the only people looking for the dog were animal control. Worst of all, perhaps, is that she supposedly didn't even chase after Hershey until she had put on more clothes.
I didn't have anything on because I had, well, I did, but I mean my pajama shirt, whatever. I had. And so I had to hurry up rushing get dressed to go chase after my dog that ran. The whole story left a sour taste in people's mouths. The Tofia Chu TikTok subreddit distrusted her version of the story, scorning her for complete disinterest in finding the dog. Even after revealing the sad news, she did nothing to try and find Hershey at all. In fact, she completely stopped talking about the topic across all of her social media. When another person made a post asking for people to help find Hershey, Tofia sent people to report their account, claiming she was pretending to be the owner. In the same breath, she made posts like this about how losing a pet can be as painful as losing another loved one. But somehow, it gets worse. Sometime after Hershey went missing, Tofia's family somehow got a new dog, a pit bull puppy, which she admitted to in some person's DMs on the 26th of February. That was 2 days before she actually announced Hershey was missing. Mind you, she didn't actually say that they were adopting it, merely said they were taking care of it until the owner would take the dog back or something. But here's where things get really weird. About 2 weeks after she originally broke the story, she posted about it on Facebook, but the details were inconsistent. This time, she said that her mother was outside with Hershey to use the restroom. There was no mention of the door being cracked open
Welcome
prior,
to my
and she
channel.
said she had to open it to let
This
Hershey
is
in. While
Elijah.
some of these inconsistencies could maybe be chalked up to a bad memory, it also created other issues. With the extra detail...
Čovjek piše od ranog jutra. Pa ono, malo, jeli gledam nešto na YouTube-u, kad nego što odem na posao, tako. Vidio sam da je Kecman online, ali također sam vidio da ga nema niđe na Discordu, pa nisam ni htio da ga blokiram. Pretpostavljam da mu je rodbina kući. Ta varijanta.
Pa ne verujem, rano jutros, ne verujem.
Ne znam.
Po njegove priči vole da ga...
Po njegove priči ja kontam da žive pored njega, bukvalno, ono, znaš, blizu. I onda, ono, jebi ga, dođu u posjetu, to ti to.
A ono što sam vidio, ne znam šta je. To nije kažem.
Kiša neka pada nešto.
Kiša. Jebote. Šta je sand? Vreme je užasno napolje. Užasno, ovako će biti ko zna koliko.
Pa valjda danas se završava, valjda. Gdje je Beka?
Jasno. Tako što sam rekao Nenadu, Last Epoch i Pet Exile 2 dobijaju u 2 dana razlike update. Previše je slučajno da ne bi bilo namerno. Znaš. I sad kao, ko će opstati je ih tu.
Pa Pet of Exile, veća je kompanija mnogo.
Ta kompanija je stara 10 godina, znaš, otprilike znaju tačno šta radi. I ne vjerujem da su slučajno izabrali taj datum. Fora je što da su samo pomerili taj datum, na primjer, nedelju dana posle toga, 20 bi bar ljudi igrali taj sljedeći update. Mislim, ko je kupio, igramo se Last Epoch, igrat će ga. Ali poenta je, ti ljudi što su promoteri, streameri i ti YouTube kreatori, oni će se brzo žaltat na Path of Exile 2, to je fora.
Pa modernija igra za klasu, realno.
Nije toliko grafički različit. Ne, nisi pravo. Nije toliko grafički različit, kako misliš na to.
Pa i u kontekstu je.
Nisi vidio endgame, nije vidio endgame u Last Epochu. Onaj monoliti, Okej, nema toliko stvari da se radi. Ali sad bi diskutao s tobom da osim igranja onih mapa ljudi većinom ne rade druge stvari.
Pa nemaš ništa, šta da radiš.
Jedino ako ja pucaš Kineze i to.
Imaš dungeone i ono da radiš.
Ne, imaš ekspedicije, da kopaš s onim minama. Nisi ti gledao trailer stari za Path of Exile 2 gdje objašnjavaju kao sve stvari koje će biti kao u tom endgameu. Oni pola toga nisu još ubacili. Vidio si iz starijih liga Path of Exile da imaš da praviš one kao tornjevi, da se braniš s tornjevima od talasa monstera. Kao Tower Defense mod.
Did we ever find out what happened to that missing tome?
A reject stole it.
Meni buzdan.
Greetings. It is this unit's honor and duty.
The tools of war are the tools by which the Omnissiah will reshape the galaxy.
across from you.
Oge, boję serio svakom čast.
Ko to?
Jedan šugnem sa njim ovom. Lord of the Ring. Pate mu je jevoke.
It's painfully obvious the Mobiums ain't in this alone. They're getting help from within Tertium. Fortunately, the shifting battlefronts have opened up access to Archive and Sycorax. Get in, access the deep archives, and bring us back something juicy. We've got seditionists to root out.
This place is a death trap.
Oh, hot. I'm working on a good mood, and I
No.
don't need you spoiling it.
Dobar dan.
Jesse,
Nemate ogovaranja.
Jesmo li vredni?
Non stop ga govorim.
We
drugčije ne umem.
Redni nismo.
O, kako to klasično. Ti najvredniji od svih, a tako skroman.
Emperor Protect.
I will survive!
Show yourself! Good. Give me the right back.
I will protect you, simpletons!
Head shotgunner!
I will not protect
Šta ima
you!
Kecmar?
I will not!
Gunner, kill it!
Ja sam se različit sve dobro
Ima kiši u Beograd, Kecmar.
Ej, ima, sad nema, bilo je, ali znaš li to, tumurno, nikako.
Choose your shots! That's Duggan!
Volim se nešto tehnički dapada.
To, bukvalno da to sam. To se nešto tehnički, znaš li to.
This way! Come on! That's quite enough out of you, Major!
Ustao sam jedno 3 puta i 3 puta sam se vraćao u kraju za prilike.
Primetio si. Kako sam primetio? Primetio sam da si... Mislim da si bio opala u ovome...
Ja sam bio sam jutro s jednom dve partije. Dok sam pio kafu. Posle toga nas sam šta sam tako nešto motoričku ili nešto izmisli da radim čisto da se znaš ne bi vraćao u krevet.
Nije loša za animaciju.
Ja, to, znaš kao izmisli nešto manje ste u kuhinji radi, ovo sve.
Something! Sniper!
I spy spear!
Filthy hound! Sniper killed! So many voices, so many shadows.
Jesi ti krenuo misiju ili?
Da, tek sam krenuo. Mogu da izađem ako hoćeš.
Ne.
That's the big beauty dot. Shepherd's sign! Little there!
Sério, nossa, ovaj YouTube da iznenadi po nekako.
YouTube, kako misliš?
Ima na Facebooku da sam ja ne znam preko
Welcome to my channel.
Ali ne znam kako se zove ni koji izvođač. I nikako da je nađem, kada tražio sam i listo sam, ne znam, po istoriji te ono makor, i vidi koliko, pogotovo kada pustiš neke te stvari, pa neke playliste, pa imaš pun kurac, brate, u istoriji, nego si da prelistaš sve.
Znaš bar neko veš.
A?
Znaš bar neki deo pesme.
Ne, neka elektronika, onako, dance je fazon. Mislim, evo i sad mi je predložio tu stvar opet, ono, posle ne znam koliko, a već jedno nedelju dana mi se vrti pesma, znaš, ono kao ritam mi se vrti u glavi, nekako da se setim, ono kako se zove.
Ja odmah čini se nešto sviđa, odmah te ubacujem u playlistu.
Ja to nikad nisam uradio, da li mi veruješ?
Imam nekoliko u playliste.
Okej.
Imam ono za muziku, za hranu, za tako neke sitne stronje.
Aha, to je pametno, stvar. Ali kažem ti ono, razmišljao sam to, što ne bi stavio neku playlistu ili nešto da ti nešto, da povuk možeš i da shodiš onako. Ako je nešto što mi se dopada, znači da ću mi zapamtiti i da šta da. Ja bih ga najviše koliko čali da mi se pometi što.
Znaš da nikoga još nisam vidio da markuje jedinica Sinan. Igrao sam predugo taj PD2 da ne bi to radio. Predugo.
Ja isto.
Mislim, ako vidim to što, razumeš, neku specialist jedinicu da ide prema nama, naravno ću da je markujem. Ali to ljudi ono kao pod onom, kao izgledamo odlači mozak od gameplaya ili tako nešto, šta znam. Trapper incoming. Yeah. Trapper. Boss.
Once the records are gone, they cannot be replaced.
Let's take it apart. It's a tough one, ain't it? I like your thinking.
Ready the post buster. Wait, double. Wait,
Shotgun. Nema. Thank you.
Evo ga, evo ga.
GG.
For the Emperor, I'm sure.
A jes, je, pa to.
Dancing shield!
And at last, they reached the deep archives. Better late than never, or less.
Je, pa valjda od update. Kad ide update za Kanta?
Mislim sljedeće nedelje.
Ja cijelo kažem 25.
Pa nije ni to loš datum. Da vide koliko mogu ljudi da skinu sa 5 effect za ovo. Znaš?
Pa ja ću se prvi skinuti jer može onda dva da traže treći.
Da.
Recimo ja i Beka bi sad igrali da možemo treći. A imaš tamo u podešavanju. Imaš tamo u podešavanju. Znam ja tačno. Sad ću ti tačno ideš u postavke, ideš.
Dags.
Ideš,
Uš! Da možda igraš sad u Dark Tide-u Double Barrel i sablju. Katana nema, ali imaš sablju, znaš.
Dobro, da nije ti bilo.
Dobro, ali nije bio Double Barrel.
To ima Double Barrel.
Ništa, ima knockback, jevi ga.
Game overlay. Activity settings, Milane, treća opcija, game overlay.
Za?
Četvrta od ozgo, skroz.
Registrovane igre,
I ništa, imaš ovdje gore ovaj slider, ako ti je na zelenom, samo klikni na njega i isključit ću ga. Samo ga isključiš, to je to. Znači slider ti ovdje enable, in-game overlay i desno ti taj slider, levo desno. Samo klikni njega da ugasiš da bude onako siv i to ti to, završi se.
A zašto mu treba overlay?
Ne, hoće da ga isključi da ga nema, čekaj, evo ti ga. Milane, evo ti slika. Ne znam spomne sliku, znači imaš to sam na game overlay i samo to je zeleni i isključiš gdje da vidi slika.
Servo guys.
Gledaj ovako.
Ne, ovo ovdje gore zeleno, vidiš ovo što je zeleno, samo isključit ću da si klikniš na to. Klikniš na to i basta. To je mu na početku. Ili ako hoćeš da ja to postoji. Imam još level upu na ogledu.
Do 300.
Pa da, i ovdje što da iskusim druge nove stvari na koje sam rekao. Ili rekao kao neću da ga mogu sveći jednom kao 30.
Da, bit će ti update. Rework bukvalno. Pa skoro svaku klasu rework ovdje.
Pa nema veze, ovo što sam ja napravio nešto usputim samo.
Ne znam.
Ti ovaj overlay da ti piše ovako, znaš ko je na Discordu. Pa in-game.
Pa in-game, to.
Vjerojatno.
Utilizing, da, znači koristim. Ili unutilizing.
Možda ne bi bilo da isključiš, na primjer, Steam overlay kad si u igri koju igraš. Da ne bi imao Steam overlay preko Discord overlay. U tom slučaju rendereš dva overlay jedan preko drugog, što će ti sigurno dati 350 frame-ova manje. Ne, Kesu, ne zajebavam se. Naprimjer, kad instaliraš Ubisoft igru, Electronic Arts igru i tako te gluposti, imaš Steam još preko toga, imaš dva ekrana koji se crtaju jedan preko drugog. Veruj, kao neko ko ne koristi skoro ništa od toga.
Aha, ništa, hoćeš da ga isključiš u njemu, samo što je zeleno ovdje da ti piše produžetno ovdje.
Pored karte vamo, s desno je da ti stoji
izgor. To zeleno kao slider.
Iznad.
To. Evo ga rekli smo disabling this game. Ne, kako je to.
kad imaš aktivno, kad nemaš, ne sve ti
Pa da, ako ti ne treba,
da
ono ne treba.
Da znaš ko je na kanalu.
Ide na već drugi monitor. Što je skuplje definitivno.
Obzirom da se radi o Overlayu, mora ti ga preko igre, zato se zove Overlay. Ali kao što rekao, kao... Ja mi to ne znam. Ali ne znam da skinimo Overlay, znači stvarno ne znam.
For the Emperor!
Did we kill it, or did it let go?
Go.
Sve ti nešto zekeće zvuk priča. Možemo li Makića zvati, ovo radi?
Da, ponedjeljak.
Kako je lik igra sa Psykerom, to je nevjerojatno bilo malo pre, znaš? Daleko toga da su ostali bili loši. Ali...
Leko, ovaj se nama ladno još ne javlja, evo. Bo jebo kišu, nego da znamo šta ćemo, radimo li ili ne radimo.
Oho, šta se radi?
Da se radi, Vlada.
Šta se radi na ovu vlagu?
Vlada. Da radimo svi.
Da.
Da te čekam, Kecman.
Evo ulaz. Hoću.
Si išao jutro za Urbas, jes? Ču sutra već moram.
For those who have doubtless heard the rumors, but who intend to sully my authority all the same, I do not have a remote asteroid to which I exile those who earned my wrath. I poison my enemies. Actually, even that isn't true. Why have hounds and howl yourself?
Ako prsi putam, pa ima i staklo.
O.
Ti sigurno nešto updateš? Igru, ozbiljno.
Ne igru.
Hoćeš da napravim privatnu sesiju pa da te zovnem kad...
Što bi?
Yes, if only there were more of them.
Social... Nope.
Evo me ulećem.
Vidi Psyche može koristiti isto Relic Blade.
This one's an infiltration mission. Get in, get out alive, if you can. With a little tech wizardry, you're going to redirect an arch-heretic's transport train. Kill the target, and we'll consider you a step closer to having earned your freedom.
Are you any good with finding books?
These soldiers don't seem
Ja sam
very
stavio, brate, onaj
industrious.
mod, nego nešto mi... ne funkcioniš.
Nema veze, vizualno manje više mogu da nađem svaki, razumeš? Manje više. Ako nije nivo baš... Znaš se nivo, ako je nivo... Ima one ćoškove, razumeš, ono tipa... Jebeni... Nekad je... Dobro, nekad se uštedi vreme, to jest...
I nekad ih ne nađeš isto. Ja sam se da nađem god 3 nađemo od nekog jednog.
Sad ti je da mi ovo. Probijaš mi ruke.
Uvijek on probijem.
Probijaš.
Uvijek on probijem.
Šta je bilo je ovo?
Njone,
Ču sada svoj gronici ubili ga.
Još uvijek nisi blizu. A nisi ni loading screen. Pokušavam da te...
A, ne, on treba da mu vreme. Pa nisi mi pivalo kod mene.
Zanimljivo. Yes. Thank you. A ušao si?
Nego, znači ono kad mi stojiš kao zvata mi je. Nemam te ono što mislim da si tu.
Ti mi reci. That's him.
Combat is so uncomplicated.
Welcome,
I
Catsman.
actually find it soothing.
It's easy enough to settle into a putney. The
scream provides
Admit it. You're jealous that I can kill people with my mind. Oh, you've no idea. So many little candles waiting to be snuffed out, one by one.
Now it's starting to sound a bit perverse. Perverse, ye blackguard!
Idol? I think I hear it.
That's an end to the muting torment.
Da igraš, Nenad?
Ajde.
Evo ti si tu dole kod ovoga pošto sam.
Mislim da imaš ovdje secret. Is there a secret here with the pipes?
Woman secret.
Ne, imaš ventile da obrciš. Znaš gdje si. Oh, welcome.
Ventile za...
Ventile za secret.
Oh, yeah.
Found one.
Šta ti je secret?
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Tajna.
Da, secret, tajna. I still get the money for helping people unlock it.
S kim ti pričaš to ako je Catsman?
Sam sa sobom. Imam običaj, imam običaj pričam sam sa sobom. Ima neki čikica koji mi kaže ubijte idiote, ja kažem ne, smijete. Ubijte, ja ne još nešto. Polako. Pozovi ih na kafu. I onda. Uzor bude reći, čovječ, ti Milan dođite na kafu. Ja sam sad začutali svi, ali? Da ste svi začutali, a? Kesiću, ako pričam sa ljudima, znači koristim onaj in-game puštu to, da moram da objašnjam. In-game puštu to, zadrži dugme, kažem, pustim, razumeš?
A ne, znam da s Catsmanom igraš.
Pa igram, ima i drugih ljudi, nije ovo 2 igrača meč. Razumeš?
Ostali su valjda botovi.
Ne, zašto bi bili gotovi? Zašto bi bili gotovi?
Ovo je... A to?
Yes. What is the room?
Realno je.
Ovo je kod se vode.
Nice, thank you. Thank you.
A tu je pusti.
Ti mrzite čovjeka da želi.
A ne mrzi, blokira su.
Upravo to.
Ako ti se ne sviđa što piše, u redu. I ja isto keću, 99% toga što on piše ja ne pročitam. Pročitam zadnji post.
Ali fazon je u tome što ti sve zatrpao ovo, ne možeš da vidiš.
Buš! Bez sajdarno.
Generalno, šta isto kače u te vesti.
Pa zatrpati postove.
Ne, ali mi stavimo možda 3-4, on stavi 20. Znaš, 20. Kapiraš? Come on.
Neverovatno te daš.
I'm afraid. I guess. Ja.
Znam da ono kad smo mi igrali Bibliju, ostali su bili potpuno.
Zavisi da li igraš privatnu sesiju, na primjer, da li ima dovoljno ljudi za hosting. Pokraj ga, Kecman.
That is a bot.
But it is now working.
Ne primam ga nekad, možda da poljubi vrat. Ne padam napred da mi drobi mozak. Po ure prema što ide na posao. Može doći neki drugi dan. Nek ide kod kuma da vidi kako mu je slomio ruku. Već ti komšije ti je slomio ruku, da. Vidi pa vidi šta radi. Ti si jako nezauzet, ja sam zauzet, idi pogledaj šta radi. Nemoj dolazi.
Kako je kumara slomio ruku?
Jesam ti rekao da je ostavio bio cigare, ali tako?
Ne.
On je reče da ostavi cigare.
Ostavio je cigare, ali nije flašu ostavio, flašu je podmazao. Uvijek se zagreva sad kod god sam kod njega. Pa mogu samo da zamišljam, razumiješ. Čovjek koji ne konzumira cigarete, what the fuck.
A
non stop, ja sam radio 2-3 dana s njima, čovječe, non stop se pije. Pivo se nosi u gajbama tamo, razumeš? U gajbama se nosi. Kad neko polomi ruku, nogu, glavu, oklizne se, razumeš? A šta se desilo? Pa znaš, jebi ga ovo ono. Znam tačno što se desilo. Da, vrlo rizičan posao. Bus! Gana dogs. Whoop! What the fuck? So many dogs. Jo! Evo te moguće ovo. Znači 20 kero i onda boss.
Sneaking the last blow in doesn't make you a hero, Zealot.
Box.
Pada li kiša, bre?
Da, kod mene da.
Ammunition. Here be the station. Righteous battle beckons.
Evo. Behind us. Svima se igrao prošlu sesiju, mogu ti reći da smo je speedrunovali.
A, dobro se vidim, baš svi ono radio.
Ne ignorišu one, očigledno one audio cue. Gdježi ga, Catman? Really? Eat my cock. Ti možda ga digneš bez da te interakti, to znaš. Look at this! Look at this! The fuck? Ker je zabio bio glavom u
Šta
polu.
na kraju ubije? Jel pao negdje pa je ruku ili kako?
Ne znam. Eto ga, hoće kod mene da ide na kafu. Prvi komšija mu se polomio. Idi kod njega pošto jednako imaš vremena slobodno. Ne moram da znaš šta priča Kesu, ne moraš da mi kažeš. Komšija ti ruku su mi, idi pogledaj. I juče mi pošalje poruku ja te čeka čitav dan, gdje si? A ja mu kažem, ja radio čitav dan. To što neko ne radi subotom ne znači da ja ne radim. Vrate, meni kako padne koji slobodan dan. Link.
Kako se potrefi?
Pa kako se potrefi, a uglavnom se tako potrefi. Help is on the way. A veće help me, ti ga ubi. Boss again, maybe? Yeah, boss. No? Da, boss, bravo. I kerovi. Telefon! Gerard!
To su ovi što će da uče kao, da?
Ma to su lažni studenti, koji student hoće da uči, to je laž.
To si vidio ovo sve neke bitangi da rade, jer kako studenti...
Sve je lipo.
Pa da, ali ovi Čaci Land, oni su bili tamo u pionirskom parku i oni su bili kao...
Ma to su ovi batinaši, bre. To možemo ja i Kecman da uzmemo knjige i kao mi učimo, znaš.
Ma koje knjige, bre, dali im kao skriptice.
Ja ne znam, moj mozak prijeti su...
Čaci Land, šta je? Čaci Land. Kako je
bo?
Jednostavno je za izgovor, Čaci Land.
Ali moj mozak odbija da govori na taj nepravilni način.
Meni je sve ti samo pomoći.
Kako nepravilan, to je nova usvojena reč, manić.
Da, jest. Za nepismenog džibera. To ti je prevod.
Hvala ja.
Bosađe? Ne znam, brate, nekad muzika... Tačno čuješ taj, onaj audio cue, znaš, za boss. To što je rekao prošli put. Mislio sam da je boss, gdje je boss i kerovi. Što neće fora bilo.
Pa viš da su ovi non stop napadali taj Čaci.
Čime ga napadali?
Pa napadali non stop, bacali...
Napadali su moj tigar.
Jes, ozbiljno, bacali kamenice, gađali tamo.
Sami sebe napadali i da bi ispalo kod su napadali. Mogu oni tu priču da prodaju nekom drugom. Matovi smo mi već.
Ducks.
Shots.
I don't think. Oh, let's not jump. Možda bi treba 2 udarca za ovoga sad, štitno.
Pa shots.
Glavec, skoči, gledaj, gore. Samo gledaj gore. Gledaj koliko ima. Ok, da! Motherfucker.
Ko to ne nade ne pora.
Ja.
Dolaz buk. Buff.
It's dead.
Flash deal.
No shit. Demon Frost.
I hear a demon host.
I don't know. Dogs. I know. Nemoj kiss. Slip past it. Ovdje je negdje knjiga, znaš? Last book. Imagine book being next to that guy. Got it. Let's kill the boss. I mean, boss, not this guy. Pazi Kecana da ga ne pecneš s metkom.
I to napraviti, ali nema toliko penetracije.
A ne to, nego... Znaš, ako treba budemo agresivni da ga ubijemo, ako nemamo shield ogredu.
Ubio sam ga danas više opet. Pa ne mora samo citre, možemo ga ubiti s ovom grupom, bez problema.
Do you wanna kite in here and kill him next to the station? Okay, Kecman.
Onaj Lily, gdje? A?
Take a bag, man.
4.500, tako ne. 5.
Kako Gregovi ko su skrabovi?
Ti mi reci.
A ti reci meni, ja sam tebi pitao.
Ti mi reci. Da znam kako zove pola s kamena, ne ovo.
Znaš ko mislim su Gregovi...
Oj, jebote mi, nemoj više, molim.
Šta te tu ne rade, nervira? Ozvaniči. Motori.
Ja se manj. Znači da su advokati među najgrupnijim prethodnicima ovoga društva.
Zim.
Ma gdje su nas prdać?
Najveće govno su.
O, govno da.
Pa jebi ga, što su učili u školu?
Ne, lijepuju porodice, rade se po jake njegove strane.
Pa može im se, brate, imaju para, što?
Ne. Nije u pitanju da se nešto može ili se ne može. U pitanju da li je nešto ispravno ili nije.
A mnogo šta nije ispravno. Nije ispravno što igramo igrice, pa evo.
Možeš, slušaj, idi radi, slušaj me, izvinjam se Kecmane, idi radi 8 sati, nađi drugi posao od 2 do 10, ako misliš da imaš previše slobodno vremena. Pretvori sav ovoj slobodni trenutak u životu u novac i reci mi kako to radi za tebe. Može tako? Ako može, redu. Sve svoje slobodno vreme pretvori u lovu. Znamo koliko je za njega dovoljno, tipa 0.
Red, disciplina.
Jeste red, radi, nered.
Mione, šta ti se taj mikrofon?
Ništa, to je sasvim normalno mikrofon. Šta je problem?
It has been determined that a hidden obscuraden is the source of the heretics' blighted stings. District HL7004 is currently under enemy occupation. Still, I estimate your chances of survival to be excellent.
Ja ne.
Kako nisi?
Ako baš hoće da znaš čim...
Ovo mi je zadnji meč Kecman, idem posle toga da pojedem nešto i...
10 puta više, kaže.
Idemo već po 12, ja. Hoćeš ništa do sutra tek,
pa vidim ja.
A tek sutra.
Treba živjeti.
Ovo je zadnji meč, odigram ovaj.
A to nego bismo ono kad se vraćaš, ono kako sutra.
A, tek u 10, verujem.
Da, kapiram, jasno.
Mogu bi sat vremena, za sat vremena neće ni da palim ovo.
Znam.
Ništa ne znači. Radije ću da legnem i da gledam YouTube 30 minuta i zaspam.
With the Omnissiah's blessing, all things are possible.
Ova mapa će da bude 30 minuta bez problema.
Huge map.
A nećemo doći.
The views might be miserable, but at least I have fine company.
A ovo je sa francuskim naglaskom. Možda imaš one persone kad praviš karakter.
Aha.
Imaš zilote koji zvuči, to što se ja kariram, kao... slomljeni neki irski akcenat. Alkoholičar, klečano.
Ne znam više.
Znači vidim kursor za mage, znači tipa 30-40 metara u daljinu. Čovjek stvarno znati gdje se psajkara.
Znači sam ovo.
Fuck. Zamisli Nenade, 80 divajna.
But circuits and machines within are degraded, manipulated, subverted.
In time we shall reclaim them for the Omnissiah.
Jesi ti kockaju čeli?
Pazi, pjesma ne ide horda odatle, verim, izvukao sam se.
Vidi. Koliko se dođe, nije omekšao.
Nemoj da ih smekšavaš, mnogo ih ima. Nemamo one...
Iako su neki kuši ljudi naučili.
Kako se omekšava horda? Horda omekšavaš sa dva mech suta koje zoveš u tog čitavom meču. Evo, ako to se tako omekšava, onda dobro.
Pa dobro, sviđamo mu se reći, ovo ne. Kao guljaka.
Brš! Bravo, nismo ni čuli muziku za njega, znaš. Bravo. Ovo boss muzika. Brš!
The path opens before us, a maze of light and mystery crackling with potential.
You might spare us your theatrics, engine seer, which are in any case lost on everyone save myself.
Got a gunner! Embrace your doom! As light is upon ye!
Prijetno.
Stand tall. Kjero ima ovdje, si do? Jesus.
Group up and you will fare better.
Yes, closer, draw we.
I cannot corroborate.
The fusion grid screams at the abuses of Tech's subtle minds and heretic hands. It is
Here's one.
Calm yourself. Focus on the search.
Praise his name! Glory be and praise the God Emperor! Got the proper kill!
Really? Kaže Zilot got a proper kill.
I wouldn't liken yourself to the heretic if I were he.
Oh my god. Imaš secret odavde iz ovog nivoa. Si ga pokupio? U onom baru.
I swear, the worst part of all of this is the orbital drop.
I suppose.
Is this a bar secret area?
Mislim da nije ovdje, da je nije.
Je, tu je. Mislim da je ovoj drugoj sekciji.
Jeste ovdje, da.
Jeste, a možda nije tu. U jednoj aleji nađeš leš i preleša ključ.
Da, mislim što su ključ.
Keep your discipline! Still wait!
Ovaj se nabio ćošak, znaš. Na srcu. Wait.
Medicaid station. Over, you blackguard! Coward!
This is the place, the root of techno-heresy.
Yes, indeed. No disco lights. Wow. Key. Is it here? It's here. Found it. Evo ga ključ. Sad za mnom. Easter egg.
Is there no room for error?
The walls seethe with rusted, fraying, splintered linkages. The motive force bleeds across the voltaic plane.
Imaš i ovdje jedan...
Stani, ne, to je isti secret. Isti. Znaš? Follow me.
Want to get killed? Stay with us.
Evo dolazi. This way.
Follow me.
Combat is so
Come in.
complicated. I actually find it soothing.
It's easy enough to settle into a pattern, ain't it? The stream provides rhythm.
Admit it. You're jealous that I can kill people with my mind.
Might be, but only a little. Then
Swords
again,
move
but it's a
stuff
good
by
way
mind.
to relieve frustrations.
Oh, you've no idea. So many little candles waiting to be snuffed out, one by one.
Now it's starting to sound a bit perverse.
Little lights fading into the darkness, cold and alone, shivering, screaming.
A concealed room? But then so much of what the heretics do is theatrical.
Yeah. Nice venter. Ducks.
A shadow lies upon this room. Deception, lies.
Po ređerima je bloke, šta je ovo? Ulti mi se napuni instant, zato što se mi računam ja nekao backshot kill, znaš? To ti smanji 20% cooldown. Kabum.
my mind also. Let us make it count. The fusion grid anomaly is not far.
A detonation charge is required. I trust you remembered to bring one.
Ne, kastam uvijek do kraja ovo, znaš. Ako to pitaš. Zbog onih 20% damage, one buff na kraju koji dobiš. Par puta se zebem pa se cancelam iz toga. Samo pritisneš blok na sekundu i cancelaš. A to ti je channeling, jebi ga. Više bi volio da je instant cast, ali... Mislim, kapiram zašto je dobar i kao channel, zato što... Znaš da ovaj prošao kroz žicu. That guy casually walked through the wired fence. Vidjelo? Full sprint pored nas, znaš? Full sprint pored nas i pobježi. Da bi se vratio posle 3 sekunde nazad. Kad je Ranger počeo da nas tovari.
Always a sign of dubious endeavor.
Machine gibbers. The techno-apostates moving mad of purpose.
Praise his name!
Systems green. Uplink resuming. As you were.
The Buster is no longer a threat.
Drugs. Bježi, Hecman. I got you. I know. No way.
The data interrogator requires your attention.
Recon Valkyrie came in today, on fire. Crew screaming. Mad. What happened to them?
They were making grill.
This way.
It seems the synthesization process can draw upon a sizable workforce.
The fate of the unenlightened is not our immediate concern.
Uš!
Super.
Počeo je bio da se penje pored mene, znači samo sam ga mačem izdovaći po ulici. Oh god.
Easy as ready.
Okay, go. No problem.
Hush, my children. We will bring what peace we can. I promise.
Perhaps you should sever yourself from the fusion grid. Spare yourself this discomfort.
A count must be made. Reckon taken. Only then can vengeance be delivered.
Ne znam koga diže, ali... Ajde. Yep.
Ja mislim da skoro se na njemu dobio ponudu.
Kako se zove ovaj specijalista, jeli, taj sharpshooter, on ti ima onu specijalizaciju da vraća bukvalno izgorele čankove health, znaš. Sa medkitom, bolje da kažem tako. Tako da, ako imaš kao medkit, u suštini bi teo da ga daš njemu, ako ima to.
Ovo sve vidiš. Ono, to je to.
Grenade. Imaš bombu ovdje, znači kad sam...
It will not be long now. Prepare yourselves for renewed confrontation with the spiky ones.
Oof. Čekaj, si ubio trapera ili pobegao?
Nisam pobegao, mislim da pobegao kroz zid.
Son of a bitch.
Tu sam gotovo.
Da, mapa ti je realno pola sata, zato što sekcije su dugačke i ovi talasi znaju da se nekad ono razvuku.
A mislim da smo sad negdje pri polovini.
Set your servo stellar roving, and you will have your answers.
This is the primary search location. Deploy your resources and remain alert for data points.
Nada sam ga ubio s poukom samo.
I confess that this lair has a certain rough ingenuity.
There can be no greater work than to unmake such subversion. Tertium must be restored.
Hang in there.
Cease lollygagging and upload your data to the servo scan.
Da, Marko, ima.
Evo, bilo se, baš kako se
Run, you fools!
Na onu moju objavu, desilo me jedno 15 ljudi na Facebooku.
Ja znam se ponekad.
Znam, nego tu si kupi,
TikTok.
Da mi shvatim da su skidane.
Stavio jedan, šta kažem, stavio jedan
How very insightful! I'm very impressed!
stavio reakciju nešto kako
Destruction warranted. Render the marked synthesizers
Push them back.
Didn't know the psycho was so angry.
I'm crazy!
Nope.
Naš bešednik. Alo, dobar dan. Da.
Torment stills. The madness proceeds. Kindness. That will not be.
A lamentable waste, but it was not in our power to save them.
Stun zone. Čovjek će da umre.
Guys, over here!
Pantiću!
Puš!
Onu malo što ti treba staviti.
Evo, zvali mi
Here it goes.
Must be dismantled.
Ima da obranimo i da... A nema. Ja tad uništimo ovu veliku bocu.
Ne, uništimo veliku bocu, nisam jednu bosu radi.
Bar jedan, ovi moje bar 5. To je taj rad,
Šta? Ali došao sam iz tog pravca.
Da. Previše široko stojiš, znaš, zato su te... Iz dva pravca su došli, znaš. Iz dva pravca su došli ovi sa mreža.
Nego samo kažem taj spawn rate kako ide.
Nekad.
Gledao sam baš tu, okrenuo se i gledao.
Data interrogation imminent. Updated parameters suggest a favorable outcome.
Odre. Živi. Viš da nema. Si zaboravio koliko smo mi ovo igrali. Smo počeli u onaj trade district. Rock'n'Stone!
Tu je i nije tu, Marko. Saši sam. Nisam preko ovdje. Još jedna matica.
Pa može, ja?
Den hände. Oj.
Običarka idem ja.
Ovo je bio double XP, znaš?
Ne.
Da, 7000 experience plus 7000 na special condition, znaš? Da. Samo odlaze moje pene, se nisam uzeo ni od prošlog puta.
Kako mogu da znam koliki je coherency?
Bonus. Coherency je kad si bar sa još jednim igračem u...
Dešti, Pantiću.
Ti mi reci.
Vreme.
Ovo da me pitaš, ti mi reci. Googlaj.
Nije kao jedan skill da uzmem ovdje coherency, a radi s 50%.
Pa to ti...
Nisam siguran koliko dobijem.
Znači dosta, ajmo ako znači dosta ako igraš timski, ako si solar ne znači ti puno. Ajmo tako. Ne znam da li ovo jasno.
Da, ali znaš, opet u fazonu koliko se to isplati.
Isplati se uvek, zato što je ovo timska igra, ako nisi primetio. Nisi još vidio da neko igra solo.
Da, ali samim tim, znaš, onako je dovoljno, znaš, da mi ne treba, gubim poen.
Ne gubiš ništa, ne gubiš ništa, zavisi koliko... To je, ako je buff samo za tebe, nije toliko ni važno. Ako daješ drugima kao, a ovo je neki, onda je možda važno.
Samo za mene,
onda,
samo za mene.
Ako ti treba taj neki toughness dodatni. Mislim, ne igramo ništa ultra teško, znaš, nemo, tipa maksimalno disco, tipa treba da optimiziraš build.
Napušavam ljude već 3 dana.
Znaš, ne igramo ništa tako treka.
Da, napušavaš.
Katastrofa, znači... Kao, zašto ukrajinske zastave, zašto ove one? Kažem, zašto ruske zastave? Pomogu ruske! Znaš kako su Rusi nama pomogu?
Kaže, Maki bio na protestu, nije vidio ništa se srpski zastava.
Stavio sam mu sliku 2 metra sa 2 metra zastava.